Southern Cameroonians, my fellow compatriots, accept revolutionary greetings from me, John Ba Akuro. Today is Tuesday, the 21st of April, 2020. I come today to remind all of us, the people of the once independent territory of Southern Cameroons, of some very important facts and issues that we need to know regarding our quest for total freedom, regarding our quest to make sure we take back our stolen country and restore our independence. My dear people, you will all recall that this phase of our movement for total freedom was reignited or was ignited in 2016. And you will remember that one of the causes, the immediate causes of the ignition of the current phase of our movement for freedom was the situation of the common law lawyers. Before you add onto it the problems that a lot of our teachers, students, and pupils were facing with the francophonization of our schools. But first and most important was the plans by la République du Cameroun to clear off the common law system. At the root of it all were some community documents, some community enactments that came from CEMAC. For those who don't know it, CEMAC is called Communauté des États Monétaires de l'Afrique Centrale. That is a grouping of all the Central African countries. That grouping is made up of 6 countries. You have Cameroon, you have Equatorial Guinea, you have Gabon, you have Central African Republic, you have Chad, and then you have Congo. All these countries speak French, with the exception of Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. In Cameroon, you have part of the country speaking English. Equatorial Guinea is essentially Spanish, but they joined CEMAC because of the common currency that they had to use, being the CFA franc. And France does everything each time to make sure they accommodate Equatorial Guinea and keep them in there because of their petrodollars. And because as a result, Equatorial Guinea will have all their reserves kept in the French treasury. My dear people, this grouping therefore has as official language French. And that is because on the international scene, since the transformation in 1984 of that country from the United Republic of Cameroon to the Republic of Cameroon, that's when Mr. Paul Biya signed what we call the Restoration Decree, which simply ended the so-called fake union between la République du Cameroun and the Southern Cameroons. Cameroon is known almost in every diplomatic mission around the world as a French-speaking country. Consequently, the people of the Southern Cameroons were considered therefore just an addendum to that country, and because they considered that we had nowhere to go to, we therefore had to be francophonized, to be assimilated, as we all heard Mr. Paul Biya say it with his own lips in France, when Mr. Mo Ibrahim pressed him on to talk about the situation back in la République du Cameroun. And so, for those doubters, for those who have kept thinking that la République du Cameroun will one day emerge from nowhere and say that they are going back to a federal experience they only used as a ruse to recolonize us, those people should look at the document I have in my hands here. This document emanates from COBAC, or it comes from the Bank of Central African States, not actually COBAC, from the Bank of Central African States, what they call their central banks, from their central bank, from BEAC. And this document is a document written, is a reply to a document, to a request made by the Director General of the Cameroon Postal Services, Campost. And that request, the whole application that he tabled, was dismissed summarily for two reasons. But the main reason for which it was dismissed was because the document was entirely written in the English language. And for those of you who understand French, you get it firsthand as I read it, and then I will translate for those who do not understand French. The document says a good lot of things, and I'm taking just a paragraph that interests us because the entire document doesn't interest us at all. It says, y faisant suite, j'ai le regret de vous signifier que votre dossier de demande ne peut être examiné en l'état car irrégulier en forme. En effet, l'intégralité du dossier de votre demande est rédigée en langue anglaise et non pas en langue française qui est la langue de travail de la BEAC et de la COBAC. Now I translate. So it says, in reaction to your request, to your correspondence, take note that your document or your request cannot be examined in the form in which it is, cannot be examined as is. I says, in effect, the entire document was written in the English language and not in the French language, which is the official working language of BEAC and COBAC. Now, this puts to rest any forms of pretense that La République du Cameroun ever thinks of making that country a bilingual country. Because if La République du Cameroun ever had in mind that we have an English language component in our country, when signing international agreements, they will draw the attention of the parties to any such agreements that in our country, documents must be produced in English and in French. Now you have COBAC, which is the Banking Commission of Central African States. You have BEAC, which is the central bank for the Central African States. They tell you officially the only working language is French. And that is the same thing with OHADA. And OHADA even makes it clearer in its definition that it has to do mainly with Francophone African countries. So how does Cameroon, which has in its composition an English component, find itself ratifying such documents? The Southern Cameroons is a nuisance in the Francophone space in Africa. And that is why the only way they can accommodate us is make sure we begin speaking only French and we begin reasoning only like those who were colonized by France, and we begin understanding that in their system, they don't accommodate people talking about rights. In their system, they don't accommodate people thinking that anyone should give them accountability for their actions. That in their system, they don't accommodate anyone thinking that they want to take control of their own resources and manage their own destinies. My dear brothers and sisters of the Southern Cameroons, and for those of you still dreaming at any point in time, things might change to go towards that federalist option that you once enjoyed in 1961 and which experience lasted only until 1972, you definitely are in a wild dream. Get up from that slumber. I know that there are a lot of things not going on so well with our movement for freedom. I know that there are a lot of things that can be really repugnant to people who want to maintain some degree of dignity, because some among us have transformed the movement into a bully pulpit. But my dear brothers and sisters, it is in our interest to make sure we continue to fix it. I have said it a million times, and I will repeat it here, that myself, Mba Akuro, call me a flip-flopper, call me a chameleon, call me any name, but I will remind you that as long as I continue to be in this movement, I will be open to work with everyone, anyone at any time, because I have no permanent enemies nor permanent friends in this movement. The only thing that I have permanent is that interest, that freedom that the people of the Southern Cameroons want. That is the only interest that I have which is permanent. If at any given point I find that working with A, who has the right debt me, insulted me, and called me names that no human being should ever call the other, that working with such a person will bring that freedom that I seek, trust me, I will. I will work. My dear people, I have said a good lot of times, we are not in this movement to make love to anybody. We are in this movement to secure freedom, and we have to do things the way that will give us that freedom that we also desire, that we also seek and so badly. There are people in this movement who have made it a point that it is over their dead bodies that we will know unity, that we will know working together. Shun those. Let us begin working in little blocks. And as we work in little blocks, let us learn from past experiences, from the experiences of others. And talking about experiences, I'd like us to look at one very interesting experience. If you want to see what happened with the Italian unification, I take that because it's synonymous to Italians taking back their country, making sure they regroup all the parts of their country to become one brave, strong, independent Italy like we are seeing today. I said this just 2 days after the end of the Zaire conclave, because I saw at that time already that the seeds sown at the Zaire conclave were seeds of discord, were seeds that were going to rip this movement apart. And at that time, I made a video in which I said it would be encouraging for us to start adopting the Italian model. With the Italian model, it wasn't total unity like it was the case with the German model. With the Italian model, the various actors with their little groups fought from various angles without aggressing each other, without attacking each other, without antagonizing each other, and they came and met at the center. That is why Prince Camillo Cavo, who was made Prime Minister of Piedmont in 1852 through the period of the Crimean War, fought at his own end. Diplomatically, his own trust was a diplomatic trust and did everything that needed to be done to help bring the various Italian states together. From his own end, Garibaldi and his 1,000 red shirts cut across several areas and delivered the part of Italy through Florence and others, and delivered the part of Italy landing in Lombardy that he needed to bring in. Giuseppe Mazzini was called Mazzini the noisemaker. He made all the noise he could make, but which had just one intention: bring together these various groups to one big center to result to what we all see today as the big Italy. And then King Emmanuel II. King Emmanuel II wasn't ruler over all of Italy. He is the one who even appointed Camillo Cavil, Prime Minister of Piedmont. King Emmanuel's role was basically one of creating the favorable conditions for all the factions to fight at their various ends and deliver the various parts of Italy that were under foreign occupation. At the end of the day, Italy was unified. We have the brave, strong, and big Italy that we see today. Now, let's move to another example, because that is a model that proposed at that time, way back in 2017, that we could follow. That is what will give us the victory that we seek. Let me take another example. Look at the French Revolution. This example may be a bit removed from us, but there are elements to pick from here. Because ours is not just a revolution seeking change within the same country. Ours is taking back our stolen country, different from the French Revolution, which was fighting tyranny in their country. The Bastille was stormed on the 14th of July, 1789. But you know what happened? That revolution hit the rocks because the people lost their senses. They lost their senses and started doing very odd things until that revolution in 1799 ended. The revolution ended. It came to a brutal end. It didn't deliver that kind of freedom that the people wanted when Napoleon Bonaparte overthrew the revolutionary government and created the French Committee. Now, what is it that caused that revolution to be ended without delivering what the people expected? Because of the introduction of the Reign of Terror. The Reign of Terror was introduced on September 5, 1793, with a declaration by Robespierre, who said terror would be the order of the day. Mark my words. During the Reign of Terror, that's when people here talk about the guillotine. A lot of very brave revolutionaries were guillotined. If you didn't fall under Robespierre, if you didn't speak the same language as Robespierre, you were sent to the guillotine. If you opposed Robespierre even for 1 second, you were sent to the guillotine. Even Danton, who was one of the members of the Committee of Public Safety, along with Robespierre, was sent to the guillotine. Is this familiar? I had said at one point that we were gradually getting in this movement into something called the Reign of Terror. Look at it today. When you hear some of the revelations that have been made or some of the confessions that have been made by people now, you understand just how exactly we have gone on killing our own very brave fighters for freedom, killing our own very devoted people whose anxiety was only to set us free. The Reign of Terror has been unleashed. That is why quietly we could hear about things happening in Guzan and our own people, those who were giving their lives to fight for us, killing each other. We have heard the same thing in Kumbu, where we had 23 able gentlemen just disappear from the surface of the earth, and nobody knows where they are. It is the same thing that is being promoted in Kugwe. It's the same thing that almost happened between Meme and Diane because of a little misunderstanding in Foi Bakundu. My dear brothers and sisters, this thing is happening because we have jumped into something called negotiations without head nor tail, without reasoning properly. And today, a lot of those interlocutors are telling us, we will negotiate only with you if you can subdue all the other factions and put them under you. And then we will negotiate only with you. It is not only to you they are saying that thing. They are saying it even to the other parties that are expected to be either annihilated or subdued by you. And when this kind of messages are coming to you by surrogates of the enemy who pass around as being people who want to, make it possible for us to attain our objectives, who want to bring about peace, they set us up to destroy each other while the enemy just watches on, and that thing you are calling negotiations will never take place. Today, what is happening? Each group is thinking, if I don't subdue the other, reduce them, put them under my control, under my command, there is not going to be any peace, because you need to be able to declare a ceasefire and implement it, and let those who have told you they will negotiate only with you see it as evidence that you have that control, you have that command. And the elders in our community are just seated and they are watching. How would this end when we would have destroyed ourselves completely? And then some look at this and tell themselves that no, this thing has become too hot for me, and they withdraw. They don't only withdraw, they go behind now and turn against the same movement they had been working and claiming that they were ready to die for. My dear people, I heard some say, even if I withdraw from this movement, I will never fight against it. But today they are pulling their swords against the same movement. But take note, those of you wanting to get discouraged, take note, those of you thinking you want to throw in the towel. Correspondences like the one I just read a while ago from BEAC and others should remind you that as a matter of fact, giving up is not an option. We are already in this. All we need to do is appropriate this movement to ourselves and continue to bring in our best to fix it, not surrender to it, to fix it, to make sure we reorient, we redirect it so that it delivers the freedom that is necessary. It delivers the freedom that not only our children, but our children's children and generations of Southern Cameroonians will need. Take note. Withdrawing and becoming an accomplice of the enemy to destroy what you had aspired for, perhaps all your life, is cowardice. And who is a coward? A coward is someone who dies many times before his or her real death. If you are thinking in your community that because those self-defense volunteers have turned sometimes, against you, whom they are supposed to protect, and that the only thing you can do is become an agent of the enemy, you are a coward. Because the only thing you can do is put yourselves together. These are your children. These are your brothers and sisters. You will put yourself together and you must find ways of bringing them to order. That is, facing your problems head on and resolving them. Escaping from those problems and thinking to find solace in the enemy's camp is cowardice, and it is foolishness, because as a matter of fact, the same problems will come staring at you. My dear brothers and sisters, take note that what we are witnessing today as a reign of terror definitely will end. Because even in France, it ended. In France, it ended on July 27, 1794, when Robespierre was removed from power and executed. Yes, the reign of terror ended. 1 year of reign of terror, but it ended, which tells you very clearly that all of these things definitely have an end. These things will always have an end. And all you need to do is not just sit back and watch it. Work to make sure that it gets to an end. My dear people, I'm coming today to urge all and sundry to understand that freedom is not free. Freedom has a price. To acquire this freedom, you need to fight, and fight very hard. Today, a lot of our noble people in this movement have become liars. A lot of our noble people in this movement have become manipulators. A lot of our noble people in this movement have become peddlers of conspiracy theories. A lot of our noble people in this movement have joined those who are in the gutter, and now public insults, outright insults, have become the order of the day. But also take note that these are signs that we are getting to the climax of this movement, that we are getting to the point where boys will be selected from men. We are getting to the point where the men will distinguish themselves and the boys will draw back. We are getting to the point where that freedom will soon be delivered to us. My dear people, let me take us now to that event that most Africans really hate to hear. Me too, I hate it. To the scramble over Africa. Take a look at this. When the European powers determined that they wanted to rape Africa to their benefit, what they did was they held a conference. They held a conference in Berlin in 1888 and set up rules and regulations, that are rules of engagement. And they agreed to make sure they don't come fighting among themselves on the African continent. Because if they did come and started fighting themselves in our various countries, we will sit and watch them destroy themselves, and they will not be able to attain their objectives. So they agreed that in this partition, if one person has already taken this area, let the next one move to another area. After all, the continent is so vast, and we can each pick, and exploit the areas that we have picked. My dear brothers and sisters, when you look at the Southern Cameroons and look at the enemy, look at that hegemon that is causing us all the trauma, it's as big as the biggest elephant you can imagine. Why don't we function this way? You have chosen that I will be acting in Lebialem, stay in Lebialem and do it. But don't go out of Lebialem and attack B, who has chosen that I will station in Momo. Don't leave Momo, you who are in Momo, and go and attack C, who has decided that I will station in Meza. If we operate in this way, we segment and we shall all be protecting our areas and coming towards the center. Don't mistake this for what is called county by county. No, that's not it. Because when you go by county, it means you will only be in that county where you come from. But take note, in the Italian experience, Prince Camillo Cavo, Giuseppe Mazzini, Garibaldi, and the others didn't only operate in the areas where they came from. Wherever you think you'll be more comfortable working at, you can all operate there. And peacefully. And at every given moment, you will exchange intelligence. You can interwork with one another. And then we will get to where we are getting to. But again, take note. The time of the Italian reunification was at a different time. We are in a completely different era. Which means that what? Which means that even when we break ourselves in those units, we should be able to have serious links so that a lot of the things that we do are coordinated. If we do not operate in that fashion, we are heading straight for the abyss. Tribalism must be thrown out through the window. Telling this person you can't come here will be thrown out of the windows. Let us see. Am I strong enough to hold here? If I'm not, let me shift to where my strength is greatest. But again, we can still be stationed in the same area, but operate with a pact of non-aggression. Which means, if we operate with a pact of non-aggression, I know definitely that my only enemy is the one who is bringing terror on our people. I will not attack you. And this begins right from the various, let me call them political groups based abroad. If you kill the issue of friendly fires, this will translate into greater unity back on ground zero. Let us learn. The West, when it comes to facing their interests in Africa, they don't fight each other, they cooperate. They understand themselves. If there is going to be tension and conflict, they quickly meet and resolve it. That is the same approach we should take in prosecuting our quest for freedom. Let us stop the battling against ourselves. And those who are weak, if you get weak at some point, really weak, and you think that you need to step aside peacefully, relax, and then at some other time, you can come back. This can even be like a relay. Because there are people who started a long time ago and who have died, and we have just picked up from where they ended. No one should think that I am the alpha and the omega of this movement. If I'm not there, it's going to collapse. Sorry. Ask those who have already died, who also thought the same like you, whether the movement has ended. My dear brothers and sisters of the Southern Cameroons, those of you thinking that the best option now is to cooperate with the enemy, think all over. Those of you thinking that the only way to operate is to subdue every other person because they have promised to negotiate only with me if I'm able to subdue every other person and put them under my control, take note that others have been made the same promise. And ask yourself how it will end. Because at the end of the day, we will subdue each other, destroy each other, and the enemy will not need any negotiation table to take back what we have been struggling to take from them. To keep us back into the slavery we are struggling to run away from. They will not need any negotiations. Right now, you don't hear them talk again about negotiations. Right now, you don't hear them talking again about any of those things. Today, they are talking reconstruction. I mean, reconstruction. That's what they are talking about today. Did you all listen to the French ambassador to Cameroon, to Yaoundé? He said France will be ready to participate in the reconstruction of what they call NOSO, provided they sign peace agreements with the various armed groups. They didn't say provided you go through that those internationally mediated talks. That one is fizzling out gradually. And very soon, that government is going to continue the work they are trying to do with what is called the Colombian effect, where that government is trying to, right now as we're talking, they're on the field working to get into deals with small armed groups. And in the end, they have most of them, most of those who volunteer to fight for you, working with them. And then they can now regroup with all of this and fight the bigger one like a much more united and get us as a seriously infiltrated force. If we do not realize where we are standing and stop quickly and think, our legacy will be very disastrous. Because right at this point in time, we are already underperforming our ancestors. Let us get up from our slumber. The bells of freedom are still ringing. Let us make hay while the sun shines. To God be the glory.